Hopefully it stands up.
Eddie. And parade. Press. Pipes down. Drums down. Eddie.
Good morning, and welcome to our 108th Firefighters Memorial Service.
I would like to thank everybody for coming out this morning in honor of the firefighters that have passed over the years. 1 year ago, we stood here to remember Master Mechanic and Firefighter Alden Piper. And it was soon after that, a renewed effort began to complete this memorial project. With the support of our past and present firefighters, the generosity of the families of these men, and the outpouring of support from the community and the business leaders, we are now able to stand here and recognize properly and fittingly the men of our department that have gone. All of us here this morning have a friend or a family member listed among the roll call of the Leominster firefighters. We have gathered here to remember a father, a husband, a grandfather, an uncle, and even a great-grandfather. There are those here that remember a colleague, a friend, a partner. The firefighters' families extend well beyond the firehouse. We never forget that family even after one of our firefighters have left us. For me, it has also been a personal achievement to get this done, in that my father, Firefighter William T. Penning, Group 4 Engine 2 driver, is one of the 192 men on these monuments. I was lucky enough to have worked 6 years with my dad. Over the years, I have been told what an amazing man my dad was, as a firefighter, as a pump operator, as a teacher, and as a friend. My dad loved this job. He was part of the very same relief association, serving as president for many years. It was 35 years ago that he stood here where I am now to recognize many of the same firefighters that we are here to recognize today. He took great pride in being with the Honor Guard. Who among us will forget how so many brothers would wish to follow the cadence as Firefighter William Penning shouted to all who could hear as we marched through the streets of Worcester on that Thursday morning in December of '99 to honor the Worcester 6 that died in the cold storage fire. How many times we have stood here on Firefighter Sunday, awaiting the orders he would give to lead us. I am proud of all that my father has done, and it is a good feeling to know that everyone who passes this memorial in the future will see my father's name. And we know that he was a Leominster firefighter. There are currently 192 firefighters listed on this memorial. Going back to the days of the volunteers when the men would pull their machines by hand, running alongside the carriages, picking up buckets as they were thrown out into the streets. Nearly all of these men have a family member present with us this morning. I am fortunate that I am able to share this day with all of you. And for all of us, it will be a day I am sure we will not forget. The feeling for all of us when we unveil these two monuments, to see the names of the family members or our friends, will be quite emotional and uplifting. We will be able to leave this morning knowing that they will not be forgotten and their memory will be called to mind every time somebody passes this site and reads their names. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask the Fire Department Chaplain and Reverend Susan Brown to come forward with the innovation.
You may be seated. To do our duty with pride and honor and to remember with praise and thanksgiving, we gather at this special place to dedicate this memorial monument and, in the time-honored tradition, to name and remember Leominster firefighters. With hope, love, faith, and respect, we offer our humble prayer as we begin this day of recognition, reflection, and dedication. May God's presence and gracious goodness be felt among us as we gather this morning. And I bid you welcome into this ceremony of memory and of deep respect for the past, of love and pride for the present, and hope and trust in the future. Many of us are holding in our hearts and minds the images of those gone, and their valor and victory sustains us still. And may the sacrifices they made not be forgotten, but recalled with thanksgiving and gratitude. This fills us with pride and resolve to do the best we can and be the best we can, to follow in their footsteps, to pay them honor and glory. And may you, their family and friends, be blessed, knowing that what they gave sustains us still. Blessed be their lives and our memories. During ceremonies and services like this, we acknowledge our trust, hope, and faith in one another, in our families and our co-workers, in our careers, in our struggles, and in God. May we be reminded by the presence of our families and loved ones and our many community supporters that we are valued, respected, and that we appreciate the heartfelt prayers that are extended for us each day. May we use this time to become filled with admiration, gratitude, and harmony in order to be in good relationship with those we live and work with. And all the past, present, and future are dependent upon how lovingly we learn to face our strengths and our weaknesses with honesty, patience, and tender forgiveness. It is time to honor one and all. We call on God. May this dedication ceremony set a time and tone for the lifetime of love and remind us always of the eternal presence of God. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. The Chief of the Leominster Fire Department, Chief Ronald M. Pierce.
Thank you and welcome. On behalf of the Leominster Fire Department, I'd like to thank our invited guests, Senator Antonioni, Representative Flanagan, Mayor Mazzarella, Councilors Frieda, Savatelli, Lanciani, Tossi, Nickel, Rosa, Rowland, and Council President Marchand. I'd like to thank all the retired firefighters for attending, and all of the active members, and all the families and friends. Welcome to our annual Firefighters Memorial Sunday. This is the day we look back and remember the heroism, sacrifices that have been made by firefighters that came before us. Some of us have feelings today of sadness as we remember a dad, a grandfather, uncle, or brother who has served our city in such a noble cause. Today, because of the work of several Leominster firefighters and local business owners, we will unveil a new monument that will turn those feelings of sadness into extreme pride. The names on this new monument represent more than a century of service to the city of Leominster and our citizens. Following the services this morning, I invite all family members and firefighters to come forward, view the names, and touch the names. These were people of great principle and dignity. Their sacrifices enabled us to have the equipment and benefits that we enjoy today. Some were veterans of World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and now, we are just now learning of their heroic efforts on behalf of our freedoms. The word tradition is used often by firefighters. The dictionary defines tradition as the transmission of knowledge, opinions, doctrines, customs, and practices from generation to generation. With the unveiling of this monument, we recognize and honor the tradition that was given to us, and now we can project it to the future. I would like to thank all the firefighters for their tireless effort on this project, thank the private citizens and the companies that donated, and thank all of you for being here today.
Thank you, Chief. We will now hear a musical selection by the Scots Highland Band. Thank you. Please welcome the Honorable Mayor Dean Mazzarella.
Good morning. Since we met here a year ago, as Firefighter Penning said, the excitement started, and it built all year. And in the last couple of weeks, especially, the buzz in the town was all about this day. And I can't tell you how many times I nearly saw accidents out here from people that were sitting in traffic and were just curious. But not just curious, but proud. And this day is extra special. And that's what kept getting repeated to me yesterday at graduation is, you have a special day tomorrow. And I said, yes, as a community, we do. And I think I can speak for everyone who had any part of this here and all of the firefighters. The very fact that you showed up on this very hot day is what makes it special. And you know, it's symbolic because whether there's one person at this event or 1,000, we know that each year we're going to continue to meet here and that no firefighter will ever be forgotten. And now, with the addition of the names to be added to the stones, it is a certainty that no firefighter will ever be forgotten. And you know, as I picked up the book today, and we're in the Mass, which you're really not supposed to be reading during Mass, but it was very difficult to put it down, wasn't it? And as you look at the book, you open it up and it's just, it's a mix of emotion. Because as you go through the names, whether you start from the front or the back, there's goosebumps, there's some tears, and there's some smiles. And that's really what the profession of being a firefighter is all about. And while this is about a day of pride, and for our community pride, and for the firefighter community pride, many of the families here are representing those that represent us here today. So it's an extra special day to have you here with us. From my window over there in the corner from the mayor's office, watching this was sort of like watching Extreme Makeover. In high speed, you know when they show the clips and it's in fast speed? Some days that's just what it looked like. And it was extremely proud to walk out and see everybody here working together and making it a community event. So on behalf of everyone in the community, I know I speak for the entire city council, thank you all. Thank you for the years of service and dedication. And remember, many of our firefighters who served and continue to serve, served us in the military and continue to serve us in the military, which makes this day even more special. I have just one last favor to ask. Are you a retired firefighter? Would you raise your hand? Would you march with us on the way back in our procession? Would you? Sure, if you could. If not, meet us at the corner. We'd love to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. Our current state representative, Ms. Jennifer Flanagan.
Good morning. When I spoke to Firefighter Penning a couple weeks ago, he had said to me, make it short and make it sweet. And don't worry, Bobby, it's almost over. I'm honored to stand here before you today to mark this special occasion. As the mayor said, it's been the buzz around town. Everybody's been talking about what the firefighters have been doing downtown. But as we heard Firefighter Penning speak earlier during this event, we heard him talk about his dad, Bill. And I think that's really the essence of what today is. To remember those that have gone before us. To remember those that have given their lives, whether it be as a veteran or it be as a firefighter, but those that have come to our call whenever and wherever we've needed it. Growing up through the fire department, I've known many special people who have been firefighters. I had the honor of knowing Bobby's dad, Bill, and he was always one for advice, always one telling me what to do. So today I ask all of you to join all of us in remembering your loved ones, your great-grandfather, your uncle, your father, your brother. Remember the stories that they had, and remember the service that they've given our city. This is a day of celebration, and as they unveil the monuments, we get to see the names of all of those who have gone before us. So today I ask you to become one as a family again, and to share all the memories you have so that we can pass history down through one more generation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. At this time, I would like to introduce and publicly thank a longtime friend of this department, our State Senator, Robert Antonioni.
Good morning and welcome, particularly to those of you that traveled great distances to be here today with us in this celebration. Thank you for coming. Your presence here is very much wanted and needed. In this busy world, each of us faces many challenges. And by the grace of God, or maybe even a little sticky paper, most of the time we remember and meet those challenges. But sometimes, just sometimes, we forget even the smallest things, like saying thank you. Well, not here in Leominster, and not today. Today we remember the sacrifices of so many of our fathers and grandfathers who came before us, and by their sacrifice, by their goodwill, by their grace, have given us this community and given us the sense of security that we have. I want to thank the active duty firefighters and the retired firefighters, and especially their families who enabled their sacrifices to allow us to be here today and to celebrate. On behalf of the Massachusetts State Senate, thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Now we will hear another musical selection by the Scots Highland Band. Thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce our department's historian, who will speak on those firefighters that are listed on this memorial. And I personally have to thank this gentleman for keeping me together through this whole thing. If it wasn't for this gentleman, I don't think I would have been here. And thank you, Roger, very, very much. You have no idea. Ladies and gentlemen, firefighter Roger LaPointe.
Good morning. There are three groups of all the people that we have to thank. You'll see many of them listed in that program book. You'll also see them hanging on a banner at the fire station. But at this time, I think there are three groups of individuals that we must thank publicly. First and foremost is Mr. Nicholas Pirro of Quality Masonry, whose generous can never be thanked enough for donating all of the materials to complete this beautiful walkway. And that wall that we now stand on. We must also thank Mr. Nick Melahov and his brother Greg, our friends at MedStar, who, through their contribution, has allowed us to provide a wonderful reception that will follow this morning's service at the Church Street Fire Station. And lastly, Mr. Robert Donovan. Mr. Robert Donovan and Ms. Chris Stevens and the staff of Quebecois UC Press, who gave me all the support I needed and through their generosity have allowed us, the Relief Association, to provide to you that testimonial booklet you now have in your hands. Thank you, Bob. For me, this is an honor and a privilege to stand here this morning as part of this dedication to 192 members of the Leominster Fire Department. Today has been a day that has been talked about for many years, and finally today has arrived. In 1990, I began to research our department history, and using newspaper accounts, daily logbooks, company journals, and every written word I could find, I was able to assemble over a 3-year period the accounts of more memorable moments in our past. The stories of these brave men were published as part of our Relief Association's annual ball publication, and it was during that time that I became interested in not only what we have done, but why we do the things we do as firefighters. As a result of that research, there are currently 1,452 names on record of individuals who have served at one time or another as a firefighter for the city of Leominster. To understand why so many, we must take a look at the history of our department. It was in 1820 that the town purchased its first wooden tub, which was filled by bucket brigades and pumped by hand. In 1828, a group of men gathered at Belcher's Tavern, forming the Leominster Fire Club, adopted a set of bylaws, one being each member must have 2 fire buckets with the first letter and surname on it, and it to be kept in a handy place at home. That group disbanded after only a few years. In 1846, when the town purchased its hand tub, the Turret Engine 1, it took a force of 60 men to operate, 48 of these men to simply pump the machine. They worked in 4 groups of 12, 6 men on each side, 4 rows deep, and pumping the machine furiously for a period of 15 seconds until the next man would take over. These 48 men would sometimes operate for hours until the fire was extinguished. Later in 1848, they purchased a second tub from North Village, the Union 2, which required 55 men to operate that smaller machine. And as the town grew, they added hose companies. Many names may be familiar to you. The Manusnock, Washington, Always Ready, the Combination, the George J. King, and the Franklin and Torrent Hose. The ladder companies of the Babcock, Excelsior, the Junior Hook and Ladder, Hardscrapple, Wachusett, the Independent, the Clipper, and of course our steamer, the Aurora. By 1870, this department needed 150 men to operate. Each year, beginning in April, the town would gather and choose 6 men to serve as their Board of Engineers. From them, they would choose able-bodied men in the town to work the machines as needed. And by May, these men had been chosen throughout the year, answering the alarms and church bells. They were proud men that turned out once a month to practice with their machines, attending musters to show their machines and to demonstrate their might and strength. They would hold a concert and ball each year, raising monies. And each year in April, they would dissolve that company, paying each man what money was in the treasury, minus any fines. Many of these men were farmers, storekeepers, blacksmiths, and iron workers, and were young men of 19 and 20 who would serve for just a few years and then leave to start their own family. It would be these young men that saved Leominster during some of the more memorable fires in our history. As we entered into the 20th century, it became apparent that we needed a permanent department, and finally, they appointed a young man by the name of Richard Cutter to serve as its first permanent man assigned to the department. His duties included the care of the horses, maintaining a fire, and having it ready to light the steamer when needed. By 1920, there were 3 motorized engines and a ladder, and the department had grown to 18 men, 2 platoons of 9, working 84 hours a week. However, it was during these early years that they relied on a group of men, the call firefighters. These were the men that worked for the Electric Light Company, the Gas Company, Foster Grants, Whitney Carriage, Borden's, Commonwealth Plastics, the Shirt Company. They were store owners, auto mechanics, and with the sounding of the 666s and the sounds of the whistles, at any time of day or night, they would report for duty. I am sure that many of you can recall hearing the sounds of the whistles and turning over a Ledger's insurance calendar and looking for the location of the alarm. In our recorded history, there are numerous tales of the heroics of these men and the countless lives that were saved. and I can only wonder how these lives changed others and how many of them went on to do great things. Certainly, things would be different if any one of these had chosen not to be a firefighter. It would have been impossible to erect a monument inscribed all the names of those who served. And so, in choosing the names we would engrave, criteria was established. Any man who served as a permanent man, retired on pension or disability. Any man who served as a call force or in the days of the volunteers that served 15 years or more. And then there were those 30 men whose names will bear a Maltese cross, their lives cut short by accident or sudden illness, and we will never know how many years they may have given us. I know that there will be a day when additional records will appear and there will be additional names that will be added, and I welcome that day, for these 192 men have done amazing things. There are our veterans, the men who served our country so nobly. There are 66 firefighters whose service has been recognized by the addition of a star besides their name. They are part of nearly every memorable battle in time. Fredericksburg, Normandy, the Battle of the Bulge, Okinawa, Luzon, Incheon, Korea, and Vietnam. They received the Bronze Star, Silver Star, and the Purple Heart, and numerous battle stars and presidential citations. And there was a young man, firefighter Clifton Ledoux of Hose 4, who answered the call to duty in World War I and died as a result of injuries he received while in Europe. They served on horseback with the Vermont Mounted Volunteers. There were Seabees, members of the Parachute Infantry. We have those that served aboard the USS Wabash, the Lexington, and the Yorktown. And there were our chosen few. And there were tank commanders and Air Force pilots. They have served in every war. They were members of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, State and National, and Air Guards. And as a tribute to them and their families, we are honored to have with us many veterans representing these military groups, including the Blue Star Mothers, who are here to represent those that cannot. To those of you here this morning, on behalf of all of us, I wish to say thank you for your service to this country, for it is because of your sacrifices and your duty that we're able to stand here today and salute these men. Our firefighters have always had a commitment to serve this community. They have carried that commitment to serve when not on duty, joining fraternal organizations such as the Eagles, the Elks, the Knights of Columbus, and the St. Jean de Baptiste. They were Masons, Oddfellows, Lions, Rotarians. And at Christmas, they visited nursing homes. 1954, they began a partnership with the muscular dystrophy. And there are those firefighters that suffered, and their lives were obviously shortened by the risks and dangers that they faced. Firefighters like Ray Morse, Red Martin, Tony Rosa, Francis Lucia, Roger Robichaud, Ed Malone, Lieutenant William Farnsworth, to name just a few. And the ultimate sacrifice, that of Raymond B. Lancey, who gave his life in the line of duty. As a result of their sacrifices, a group of firefighters in the late 60s and early 70s formed our union, Local 1841. Firefighters Norman Valois, Billy Wheeler, Jack Mann, the Enrights, Francis Norman, and Jock Antonucci were just a handful of signers of that charter. And as a result, we and our families now provided the protection that so many firefighters before us did not have. Like so many others, I follow in the footsteps of family. My father, Berner, ran as a call man during the 60s while working for the DPW. Great Uncle Joe Torigny served 34 years, first with Hose 2, then with Hose 4, till being promoted a lieutenant with Engine 2 Lancaster Street. And my uncle and godfather, George Bove, who retired after 37 years of service as a fire alarm operator, Group 1. I can recall so many times as a child that he would bring me to the station to meet with the men and to ride the trucks. And when I joined in 1982, he said firefighters are a lot like fishermen. Each time they tell a story from a fire a long time ago, the fire will grow in size with each telling of the story. But if I listen, if I really listen, I'll learn something. He was right, and I am grateful to those firefighters that shared with me their stories and taught me what they learned from the generations before them. I am a better man for having known you. It was on the second Sunday in June of 1901 that we gathered first to remember their friends, the former firefighters. In 108 years, we have carried that tradition. And each year we gather as family and friends and celebrate their life. Each year the roll call is read, and as a name is heard, we may smile as we recall a moment or shed a tear as we recall those painful times. or those tragedies that we as firefighters may have faced. And each year after the names have been read and the wreath is placed, we return to the fire station to renew our friendships and begin new ones, and we recall the deeds that these men perform. And then, if the day is over, they return to our memories and into our hearts, and it's in only those personal moments when we call them to mind. But today will be different than in any other day. Shortly, we will unveil these monuments, and in doing so, we will be shouting out to all who come here the names of these firefighters. For every day after today, when a person walks by and stops to read the names, they will be calling to mind your firefighter. Tomorrow or the next day, or perhaps in the years to come, there will be those that will stop and wonder who they were and go to the library or to the Historical Society and learn a little bit more about them. And today is the day we shout out to all that will listen that these are our firefighters and they will not be forgotten. I have been fortunate to have worked with many of these men. These men battled some amazing fires during the 60s and 70s. They took the time to share with me their stories. And with the passing of each generation, we remember the one before us by passing along what we have been taught and to teach our new firefighters these traditions. If we can do that, then these firefighters' memories will live forever. Each of them has left behind a legacy, and it is our duties as firefighters to keep that legacy alive. Since the spring of 2000, when this project first began, we have added the names of 25 firefighters. They were firefighters that knew of this memorial. 1 year ago, when I joined with Bobby, there were 64 living retirees, who I am sure wondered if this day would ever come. And since when, we have lost 3 more. Firefighter call firefighter Emilio Marty Martini, who on any given day could be seen going into City Hall or the Leominster Credit Union. And when I was on duty, he'd stop and talk about his days on the rescue of the old bread truck. In October, we lost Deputy Chief Ross Amico, whose family and friends, at the request of the family, omitted flowers and instead made generous donations to this project. And in January, my friend and mentor, Roger Bigelow. Roger and I shared many cups of coffee talking about the names that appear on this stone. It is for this reason that I am grateful to the God above that as many of our living retirees are here with us this morning. This monument is for all of us, but especially for you, as you will now know that when you are called from us, you will not be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. If I could ask, could we get some water for our guests up here, guys? If I could have some of our guys bring some water. It's hot. Thank you very much for sitting. As we do that, I am going to introduce our honorary guests. Look, he already turned the page for me. Thanks, Roger. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, it would be my honor to introduce some very special guests to assist us in unveiling this monument. When the idea to have 4 individuals assist us with unveiling this morning, this man was the first to be thought of, Frederick W. Johnson. He first entered the call department in 1946 and was made permanent in 1947. In 1953, he was promoted to lieutenant. In 1954, he was sworn in as the youngest chief in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. He would serve in that capacity until August 1988, retiring after 42 years of service. His father, Frederick F., had served for 45 years, with 35 of them as the assistant chief of the department. His uncle, Ernest P. Johnson, had served for 34 years, 22 of those years as chief of the department. It is my honor to introduce to you retired Chief Frederick Johnson. In 1940, our next guest joined the department as a called firefighter assigned to the hook and ladder, where he would remain until leaving to serve his country in the United States Army in 1944. Upon his return to Leominster, he once again joined the call department until he was made a permanent firefighter in 1947. 1957, he was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, where he served until his retirement in 1973. He has been a lifelong member of the Hose 4 Association and recently retired as a secretary after 28 years. He has been the vice president of the Massachusetts State Firemen's Association for the past 20 years and the board of director for the Permanent Firefighters Association. He also served as a secretary of the Relief Association for 17 years. At this time, he is the oldest of our retirees. Please help me welcome Lieutenant Joseph A. Love. In 1901, a young man by the name of Richard Cutter joined with Hose 2, beginning a career that would last 46 years. During this period, he would be made the first and only man to serve in the rank of captain in the permanent department and would serve as president of the same relief association for 37 years. Thankfully for us, Captain Cutter saw it fit to record nearly every moment in the department's history, and we now have a much better understanding of where we have come from. It is my pleasure to introduce to you his son, Captain Cutter, Mr. Bill Cutter. We have heard so much of how firefighting is a family affair, and our next guest represents a family that has done just that. The name Farnsworth is well known in our history, with the name of Charles Farnsworth listed as the foreman of the Union Engine 2 in the North Village in 1848. During the course of 113 years, there would be 5 generations of Farnsworth family to serve as members of this department. The son of Charles served as the Union Number 2 in the 1860s. This man's son, Mr. Charles H. Farnsworth, began a career in the 1880s that would last 36 years. He had 2 children, George F. and Charles Clifton, that would both serve in North Leominster during the early 1990s. A William H. Farnsworth was born to Charles Clifton, and he would join the call firefighters in 1950 and raised to the rank of lieutenant in 1957. His sudden death in October of 1961 shocked the men of the department. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the daughter of Lieutenant William H. Farnsworth, Allison. You knew I wasn't going to get the last name. One of our many traditions at the Memorial Sunday service has been the reading of the roll call. Each year, the names of the departed permanent firefighters are read, calling them to mind into our hearts. This morning, it is my honor to have with us the widow of firefighter Ralph Wallace and the daughter of Deputy Chief Ross Amico, Miss Angela Wallace.
Thank you very much for coming on such a hot day. I am again honored to read these names, and of course adding to it this year the best man I've ever known in my life, probably the best man I ever will know, my dad, Ross Amico. These are the names of the deceased permanent firefighters of the Leominster Fire Department. Lester H. Harrington, Raymond C. Morse, Irvin R. Hubbard, Chief Ernest H. Phelps, Joseph P. Miller, Albert D. Leighton, Chief Frederick A. Russell, Myron E. Lamb, Nathan H. Lowe, Elmer P. Clark, Alfred J. Morse, Honorat J. Como, George H. LaBeouf, Frank E. Wilson, Earl K. Duvall, Harold C. Hildreth, Adolphus O. Miller, Clarence W. Bentley, Lieutenant William H. Farnsworth, Bernard J. Gary, Edmund F. Malone, Captain Richard H. Cutter, William Tom Garland, Charles C. Boyden, Morris F. Hardy, Osias P. Legal, Eugene G. Davis, Harry Mitchell, Anthony J. Rosa, Bernard C. Martin, Francis W. Lucia, Lieutenant Harold S. Bailey, Louis G. Miller, Fred L. Gleason, Henry A. Como, Chief Ernest P. Johnson, Frederick W. Boyden, Gordon D. Wilson, Deputy Chief James Skinner, Lieutenant Alvin K. Hembrough, Leopold E. Thibodeau, Francis Enright, Carl A. Tyler, Roger A. Robichaud, Lieutenant Donald Markham, Lieutenant Lyle Galagoy, Deputy Chief Joseph Cormier, Lieutenant Raymond E. Piper, Amy Rowe, Lieutenant Arthur M. Pike, Vincent Antonucci, Chester M. Pierce Jr., Carl F. Cody, Lieutenant Salvador F. Ippolito, John W. Mann, Sr., Deputy Chief Paul Angelini, Norman J. Valois, Thomas J. Jordan, Deputy Chief William J. Wheeler, William H. Huckins, Jr., Albert Giardin, Ralph B. Wallace, Francis W. Normandin, Lieutenant Donald H. Gillis, Norman A. Brooks, Lieutenant Walter J. Calamari, Virgilio Pizarro, Jr., Perino Pete Angelini, James J. Gilmet, George E. Bove, Roger A. Case, William A. Raffaelli, Jr., Leo Enright, Lieutenant Robert E. Lovell, Lorenzo B. Amico, Jr., Alfred A. Fournier, William T. Penning, Alden E. Piper, Deputy Chief Rosario F. Amico, Roger G. Bigelow.
Reverend Sue, as he reminded me.
This has been a warm and wonderful day. There is no doubt that the presence of God is among us. Take memories, joy, peace, and love with you, and go now in love. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for bearing this heat. This concludes the 108th Annual Memorial Service for our department. I would like to wish and thank everybody for coming here today and for doing what you have done to help us get this far. You are all welcome to come back to the station for refreshments. We have all kinds of stuff back there. All you kids, you know you can come march with your families, and whoever else feels like marching, hop on in. We will be coming down Park Street and right up Merriam Ave, so if we can clear that part of the road, we're going to come right down and down Church Street. Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful day.